So example 18 says you have two job options. Acme offers you a base pay of $35,000 per year plus $10,000 in special company stock whose value grows continuously, compounded at a rate of 8%. Turtle Wax offers you $40,000 per year but no stock. So it says let T be the cumulative value of your compensation T years after you start working at Turtle Wax. So what makes this a little bit tricky in this problem, you want to make sure you're reading. It's very easy to read the problem too quickly and assume all of the first information goes with part A, but notice Turtle Wax is what they're asking about in part A. So it says to be clear, T should be cumulative. So for example, when you're after 1 year, your answer equation should yield 40,000, and when you're at 2 years, you should have 80,000. So what we want to do is set up an equation, right? Capital T for Turtle Wax of time little t for time in years, right? And it says, well, Turtle Wax just gives you 40,000 a year and no stock. So this is actually going to be a linear relationship, and the equation is going to be 40,000 T. Now, let's say you didn't see that right away. So another way you could have done it is you could say, well, at time 0, I have no money, right? And though you were told in the problem that after 1 year, right, you should be at 40,000. And at 2 years, you should be at 80,000, right? And so on. So we can actually see that the change, right, in y over x, right, or rise over run should be the same, right? You should just have a line with slope 40,000. Every year you go up 40,000 for every additional year that you work there. For B, it says, well, let A be the cumulative value of your total compensation, salary paid plus stock value at Acme T years after you were hired. So it says, in other words, the total cash you've earned in salary plus the value of your stock at time T. So this is a little bit trickier than it first seems, because here we're assuming that we're measuring our salary at the end of the year. So we're going to assume here that we're also measuring our salary at the end of the year, upon completion of the year. We're also going to assume that you get your stock at the end of the first year. So we're not measuring it from the beginning of the year. So Acme, right, gives you a base pay of $35,000 per year. So that's just 35,000 times T years, right? So 35,000 in base pay after year 1. After year 2, you've cumulatively earned 70,000, right? So just like in the previous problem. However, they give you an additional $10,000, and we're assuming we only get the $10,000 at the end of the first year is how this is supposed to work, right? But it's going to compound at an interest rate of 8%, so we write 0.08 per year. So they're not giving you $10,000 of stock every single year. It's the salary plus the stock. So you get $10,000 worth of stock that grows at 8% per year. So here's the issue with this equation. If the stock is given the first day you start working there, then at the end of the first year, you've earned the full 8%. And that's what we're going to assume to do this problem. However, some companies would say, here's your base pay, but you might get the $10,000 at the end of the first year, which means it really wouldn't start earning interest until the second year. So we would have to adjust that for T-1. But because it didn't specify, so if you're ever unclear about that, I might write a note here saying, assuming stock is given right on the first day of work, right? So sometimes you can say, like, this is what I'm assuming based on what I read in the problem. All right, C says, assume you earn no raises from either company. Which is better to work for if you only plan to stay for 1 year, 2 years, or what about 10 years? So here's what I would do here. I would say, well, there's two companies, right? We have Acme and we have Turtle Wax. And I would just make a table. So, right, here's 1 year. Here's our salary after 2 years. And here's our salary after 10 years. So Turtle Wax is pretty easy because we just plug in, right, $40,000 at the end of year 1. At the end of 2 years, we earn $80,000. And at the end of 10 years, you've made $400,000. For Acme, we're going to plug this into our calculator and we're just going to round to the nearest dollar. That's just kind of the general rule for this. So after 1 year, we're going to have $35,000 plus whatever, the $10,000 plus whatever interest it is earned at that time. So when we plug 1 into that function, we've made $45,000, 833 if we round to the nearest dollar. If we plug 2 in, we've made $81,735 if we round to the nearest dollar. And after 10 years, we've made $372,255. So even though you make more money quicker with Acme, over time, you actually do better cumulatively if you take the straight salary in this particular case. So if you only plan to work there for 10 years, right? We should take this job because we earn about $18,000 more.